Tonight is the first night of Hanukkah. Jewish communities around the world are lighting the first candle on their menorahs, including here in BC. To mark the start of the holiday, we're remembering a dark moment in our province's history. In January of 1985, a firebomb ripped through the Temple Sholom synagogue on West 10th Avenue in Vancouver. Congregation members rushed to their house of worship to save what they could. Much of it was destroyed, but some artifacts were rescued. In our segment, From the Archives, we look back at that day.
The search continues for the person or persons responsible for the arson attack that gutted the interior of the temple last week. It's seen as an example of naked anti-Semitism. This weekend, members of the Temple Sholom congregation held their regular religious ceremonies in the Jewish Community Center. Mayor Harcourt was there to give assurances that attacks such as that made on the temple cannot and will not be tolerated.
Said that this was not just a tragedy that affected the congregation of Temple Sholom and the Jewish community. It was a tragedy that affects us all. It is a blow against our freedom, not just our freedom of religious worship, but our freedom as a community. And it's very important for us to be part in the rebuilding, all of us, of Temple Sholom.
Rabbi Philip Bregman said the firebombing should serve as a warning to all Canadians who respect freedom of worship.
If our synagogue could be bombed, so could their church, so could their library, so could any institution which fosters democracy, justice, and peace. For that's what our synagogue stands for, and that's what the churches of Canada stand for.
Today, members of the congregation expressed astonishment that an arson attack on a synagogue could take place in this country, in this city, and at this time in history.
It's kind of like it was kind of out of my mind that I thought anti-Semitism was not really a thing that was a major factor.
It makes you, like you heard all these things, we think about Nazi Germany, all that, but you always think, oh, it'll never happen here, it'll happen anywhere else, but not here. And all of a sudden you realize, whoa, it can happen here. It just kind of brings it home. Yeah, it's scary.
In one way, it's very frightening, because when I was carrying the books out of the building, I thought to myself, this is something that was done in my parents' generation. They carried books out of burning synagogues. I never thought I would have to do that.
I don't know what it is, but it scares me. That's all. We run away. I'm not going to run again.
Terry Dolan reporting in 1985. Among the voices you heard in that story, Rabbi Philip Bregman, who was the head of Temple Sholom at the time of the firebombing 38 years ago. Our Maurice Katz caught up with Rabbi Bregman to look back at that time and how things have changed since.
And about 1:30, 2 o'clock in the morning, I got a phone call from the fire chief and said, Rabbi, your synagogue is fully engulfed, and we believe it's a bomb. You have any reason to believe anybody would be inside? I said, thank God, no.
Rabbi Bregman vividly remembers that day, January 25th, 1985.
As you might have heard, right next to that window was this Hanukkah menorah. Everything else is destroyed on that floor except that menorah.
Temple Sholom was rebuilt 3 years after the bombing, and that menorah is still being used there today.
This is the part here that we believe, when the fire got so hot, that it happened to burn this one weld, or this one junction. And so we took it and had it welded back together and repaired it and restored it, which is so much the theme of Hanukkah, to repair, restore, and renew.
The menorah, or Hanukkiah, is now an important symbol for the community.
Just like the Hanukkiah, where you use one candle to kindle all the other lights, the light of this menorah, which can remind us of the light of religious freedom, can also remind us of the light of inclusion, the light of social justice, the light of peace, the light of brotherhood and sisterhood in our community, the light of respect for human life in all of its places, in all of its spaces, here, in Israel, in Gaza, and around the world.
Both Rabbi Bregman in 1985 and Rabbi Moskowitz now praised the resilience of the Jewish community in the face of anti-Semitism.
This is 1985. The Jewish community in Vancouver was particularly small. But maybe in some ways the other light that was shined at that time, in the midst of the raging fire of hate that brought this terrible tragedy to our synagogue, was a spotlight was shined on the Jewish community to see that we are here, that we are a vulnerable population, and that we are worthy of the community taking notice of us and even trying to surround us with love and protection.
If our synagogue could be bombed.
They also expressed their concern over the rise of hate towards all marginalized communities.
So I can't fight anti-Semitism alone. My Muslim colleagues can't fight Islamophobia alone. The indigenous population, the black, whatever the group is, cannot fight the racism against them alone. We need to be there with each other. And with that, we give a sense of hope to each other to say, you're not alone in what's going on. And that really is the message of Hanukkah, that whatever they're going to throw at us, we're not going to let them diminish the light.
Temple Sholom's surviving menorah is one example of that light that appears in so many celebrations this holiday season, from Diwali and Kwanzaa to Christmas and Hanukkah. Maurice Katz, CBC News, Vancouver.